It's space weather. Here's the sun on 171 angstroms. We see no sunspots. Coronal hole rotating out. High-speed coronal hole wind stream. Some active regions rising. Let's look at some other views. Your magnetic view. Bunch of mixed fields. 304 angstroms. Some plasma filament activity. As sunspot 2729 sets out of view on the western limb. Not a lot going on, but heavy solar winds. And here at 193 angstroms, you can see the coronal hole rotating out. As we receive the wind stream, and it looks like another coronal hole is forming right about there. Alright, let's look at some data at spaceweathernews.com. So X-ray fluxing has dropped off. It's back to a more of a flatline state. There was a third B-class flare just before, in the last 3 hours last night of universal time. And before we move on, let's look at the real-time solar wind. BTBZ is pretty convergent on the zero line there. Phi angle still shifting back and forth. Magnetic connection not really there. Solar wind density at 5.6, but the real story is the solar wind speed, 625 kilometers per second. High enough to spark a minor geomagnetic perturbation last night. The KP index was all the way up to 4. Your magnetometer, you got some steep spikes in there. That's something to keep an eye on. And speaking of ions, there's your KP index. It's back to 3. Electron flux is much higher than it's been. And we wouldn't be surprised if this went off a cliff in the next hour or two. A little bit of charging hazard sparked by that increased electron flux. And your F2 ionosphere layer is looking pretty anomalous here. It's looking surprisingly discharged on the positive side. And this discharging 1 megahertz area here, that should be farther north, really. So there's that. Let's look at the global incident map here. Check out the most recent quakes. Alright, going back 8 hours. 4.8 in Indonesia. 4.4 in the Philippines. That's 602 kilometers. Philippines should be on alert for a 5.5. Prince Edward Islands. Not sure where that is. Let's go have a look. Oh, another spot very far south. Southeast of Africa. All right. And what's next? Uzbekistan gets a 4.5. Fiji gets another deep 4.3. Fiji stays on alert for a 5 as if they ever come off of alert. East Pacific Rise gets a 4.6. And that's the last quake of note. Let's look at that one too. Somewhere by India, I think? Oh no, East Pacific, right. Off the coast of Mexico. Alright, there's your earthquake update. Let's look at the aurora forecast. Auroras are looking pretty weak. And space weather enthusiast dashboard. Just take a quick look at the US total electron count since we had a bit of an increase there. Although we never got over 10 to the 5th, so no significant spikes there. And let's look at Solar Ham to look at the magnetogram. Since they put it right on their homepage, we thank you, Solar Ham. All right. You can see there's a plage rising there. Those of you who are not aware, a plage is a sandy beach or an active region on the sun associated with sunspots, usually, but not in this case. No umbra. You look at the intensity gram there, you can see some penumbra. No dark spot equals no sunspot. Let's look at some other stars. Check out this fantastic app. It's actually just a web page, just in-the-sky.org. Get yourself a nice star chart. Just put in your town, and this thing will calculate where the stars are. You can go outside and match it up. And let's just animate, because there it is. So it looks like Cygnus rises at about 6:15, where I'm located. Anyway, we'll leave links to all of these sites. Check out inthesky.org. The sky map is fantastic. Also, we recommend putting in the ecliptic and to shade the galaxy. Gives you an even better idea of where things are. And that is our plug for inthesky.org. Let's head back to our real browser. In fact, let's close Google Chrome altogether, because we don't want that crap. And here's a location of your planets, for those of you who are interested. If you get up before sunrise and you got clear skies, look in the east. You see Venus, it'll be visible even after it's light out. Gas giants are on the opposite side. Mercury and Venus are gaining on the Earth as the Earth gains on Jupiter. Now let's look at some articles here. Turns out the futures tumbled, which means the U.S. stock market, really all markets, are experiencing problems again. Futures tumble after China summons U.S. ambassador and threatens, quote, further action, end quote, over Huawei CFO arrest. Not good for the markets. You've got even worse futures when we looked a few minutes ago since when this article was posted. We'll leave links to the article. It's going to be time sensitive. If you don't get to it by 9:30, it'll be old news. So let's look at the current situation. To CNBC.com. Okay, Dow futures are set to open 558 points off the zero mark. NASDAQ set to open down 219. We've got activity in the U.S. bond market, probably indicating weakness in the U.S. dollar. Oil has had a spike since we covered it last. Silver's gone up 1/4 since we covered it last. Wheat is down strangely. And okay, looks like U.S. dollar strength. I figured that would be dollar weakness. I stand corrected. European markets are all down. Asia markets are all down. It's going to be another harsh day on the stock market. And there you have it. So thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Please leave a comment. Please share our videos on your social media. We'll be covering it daily, during the solar minimum especially. Remember, as you're watching the Plage rise on the northeastern limb of the sun, don't drink. And if you drink, watch the Plage anyway. It could turn into a sunspot. Who knows?